Ahoy, Vanda crew! We're sailing around the world in a Hinckley Bermuda 40, so you're gonna want to be subscribed. What's up, guys? We're back at the boatyard. Today we're gonna be sanding and fairing my transom, as well as finishing out grinding my lazarettes and the bilge area under the cockpit. Hopefully, we finish that today. I did finish grinding out the aft lazarette, so we're just going to be doing the bilge area for the most part and doing some touch up. And hopefully, we finish that, and next time we can paint. We're also going to be sanding and fairing our transom, so we've been working on this for quite a while now. Still got a bit of ways to go. We want to get it as smooth as possible before we lay glass over it. So here's what our transom looks like after the last time we sanded and faired. So it's looking a lot better on this starboard side. The starboard side was lacking for quite a minute, but I think we got it looking much better now. Very smooth over here. We just finished sanding our transom. I used 60 grit sandpaper and my Milwaukee sander down here. I'm going to use the vacuum to dust it off, but you can see it's just looking so much better. Very smooth. Probably only one or two more layers, if even that, before I can start laying glass over it. Unfortunately, I forgot my bucket, so I won't be able to fair it out today. I need a bucket to mix the fairing compound. It's a two-part 50-50 fairing compound mix. So I'm going to just dust this off and then mark all the low spots with a pen. There aren't too many low spots, but you can kind of see right here some of these areas. And I don't want, right now it's easy to see them because the areas that I sanded are light green and the areas the sander couldn't get to are dark green like this. But if I leave and come back, it might be a lot harder to see them. So I'm going to mark all these areas with a pen before I leave. That way when I come back next time, I know where I need to focus on applying my fairing compound. I'm going to mark those spots, and then we'll get to working on the lazarettes in the bilge area below the cockpit. I just finished marking all the low spots on the transom that we'll apply fairing compound to when we come back next time. I just used dots and I kind of concentrated the dots on spots that had more low spots. So, and especially when I see these little holes, we want this as smooth as possible. The idea will be to come back with the fairing compound and cover all these dots with the fairing compound and then rub my 12-inch taping knife over all of these to get them nice and flat and smooth. But it's looking really good. I'm excited to have all this done. I think we'll have it done just in time to paint the hull. Hopefully I get all the glassing done before then too. That's the plan, to have this glassed by the time we're painting the hull. That way we can paint the transom and the hull at the same time. Okay, now we're going to get to grinding out our lazarettes and bilge area. So here are the lazarettes we finished grinding out. That's the starboard one and this is the port one. We've got both these ground out pretty well. Here's the aft lazarette. We also ground this one out, not as well because it's such a tight space, but we did make an effort to grind out all the loose breaking off paint. So this should be fine. And I know from experience with working with the paint that we're going to use that it's very strong and durable. So this is plenty fine. I painted my anchor locker without doing any prep and it came out looking great. The paint I'm using is Total Boat's epoxy bilge paint. It's a single part paint with an epoxy base. This is the area we're going to be working on today. Just this part below the cockpit. I'm going to try and grind out as much of this as I can. It's going to be very hard to reach the grinder back here, so I don't know how effective of a job I'm going to be able to do, but I'm going to give it a shot. So here's this area from the starboard side lazarette. And here is this area from the port side lazarette. I'm going to get this ground out and I'll show you the aftershots. We just finished grinding. Here's what it looks like from the starboard side after being ground. So now everything is all ground out as best we can back here. Here it is from the port side after being all ground out. We are done with all the grinding now. Next time, we will be painting this bilge area below the cockpit, our starboard lazarette, our port lazarette, and our aft lazarette. So I'm getting ready to go to the boatyard and paint the lazarettes in the bilge area under the cockpit today. And I come over here to get the paint. As you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes of paint here. Each box has 2 gallons in it, and the gallons are packaged like this. So the only way for me to know what paint I'm grabbing is to open the box, completely take the gallon out of this packaging, like I've done here, and read the side of the label. So I'm coming over here to get the paint. To go to the boatyard, I need the gray epoxy bilge paint. No idea what box it's gonna be in, and I'm thinking I'm gonna be sitting here opening boxes for a minute. I open the very first box, pull out the very first gallon. It's the epoxy bilge paint I need. I just thought that was crazy and I needed to share this moment with you guys. All right, I'll see you at the boatyard. We are back at the boatyard. So I went and picked up a bucket so I can mix my fairing compound, and I got my paint and everything and all my painting supplies that I need. Now we're going to finish fairing out our transom, and we're going to start painting the lazarettes in the bilge area under my cockpit. My plan here is to first fair out the transom with our 2-part epoxy fairing compound, and then I'm going to prep the lazarettes in the bilge area for painting. So I just need to tape everything off, and I'm going to go in there and vacuum too and make sure we get any dust that we might have missed while washing the area out with the hose. Before I get started with prepping the lazarettes in the bilge under the cockpit area for paint, there are a few spots in the fiberglass that I want to fill with some high density epoxy filler so that they're filled when I paint over them. These are the holes from the hatch we took out the other day from the aft lazarette. I'm going to fill these holes with high density epoxy filler. I'm also going to fill this hole down here, this hole right here, and this hole. There are a few other various holes in the lazarettes that I want to get filled. There are some holes in areas in the wood like this that I'm also going to fill too. And back here as well, I'm just going to get all these filled. I'm going to get all these filled. And there are a few more holes in my port side lazarette that I want to get filled as well. I'm going to mix together some high density filler with epoxy. I'm going to be using West Systems epoxy, and then I'm going to come up here and fill all the holes, and I'll show you guys the results. I just finished filling all our holes in our lazarettes with epoxy fairing compound. I'm going to go grab some lunch while I let this set, but I'm going to show you guys what I did. So here are the holes from the aft lazarette hatch that I filled. They probably look weird on the top side. It's because I filled them from the bottom side so that they would be smooth on the bottom, because that's where we're painting. And then whenever I go to paint the deck, I'll fill them on the top side and sand them out, and then we'll paint on the top side. I filled my holes over here too. Don't know how well you can see that. Whole bunch of them. And we filled some on the wood. I didn't go too crazy with it. This area doesn't need to look perfect, so I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time using expensive epoxy filling holes. Now I'm going to start working on my transom. The lazarettes to be painted. So I've completely taped them off as best I can. So everything where we don't want to get paint is all taped off. So yeah, everything is all taped off. We are ready to paint in here. So I'm gonna get started painting.